In mid-July, after my family returned home from vacation, my sleep was all out of whack. This was partly from trying to settle back into our own time zone after spending 2 weeks in a time zone that was several hours off from our own, and partly from the effects of vacation on our brains and energy patterns. These go hand in hand, though we don't often realize it. So let's look at my experience as an example. Leading up to vacation, I was exhausted from attending my daughter's twice-weekly baseball games and from working full-time to support my family while also trying to build another business, not to mention all the extra time I was spending completing projects that would be due while I was away and preparing my clients for my absence. My husband and I both felt like all the effort we had putting in would finally start paying off after we got back from vacation, as if we were riding bikes to the crest of a hill and would be able to enjoy the view during vacation before simply coasting down the other side with ease after we got back. I couldn't wait for more than 2 weeks of sightseeing and simply living in the moment, enjoying the company of friends and family. And on vacation, I was able to do exactly that and to safely also try a mind-altering chemical that is illegal where I live, but legal in the place we were visiting. After vacation, I arrived home tired but essentially recharged, thanks to the insight and relaxation that travel nearly always bring me, along with the additional insight brought about by the drug I tried. On almost every night of our vacation, I fell asleep easily, rested deeply, and woke rested in the morning, around the same time I do at home, despite the fact that we were several hours off of our own time zone. Once we got back home from vacation, however, my sleep fell into a pattern for probably a couple of weeks. On our first night back, we all slept the sleep of exhaustion brought on by about 15 hours of driving and flying. Then I experienced several nights of not being able to fall asleep for hours after going to bed. On our first Friday night home, I had nearly drifted off when one of my kids startled me into full wakefulness, and after the kids had settled back down, I lay down, but then had a moment of insight about some aspect of my business, so I got up and wrote down the insight. Then I went back to bed, and when I was nearly asleep again, a kid once again brought me to full alertness. I'm sure if you're a parent, you recognize this pattern. As I was climbing into bed after sorting out the child this time, another amazing thought hit me, and so I got up and wrote it down again so I wouldn't forget it in the morning. Finally, I lay back down again, but then I found myself too angry to fall asleep. I was wide awake, angry that I couldn't sleep, and I knew that this time I was going to have to push myself to utter exhaustion before I could fall asleep, because I had already passed the point of being overtired. So I started cleaning my office. I attacked 2 overcrowded shelves full of papers and books from graduate school and college, and even found some papers from high school in there. So after an hour or 2 of clearing, I was finally able to sleep like a baby. When I awoke the next morning, I reviewed the notes and progress that I'd made the night before, and I started trying to implement the plans I'd written down in my moments of insight. To add frosting to the proverbial cake, my husband had actually awakened early, so he had the reverse of my sleep problems, and he was full of ideas when he woke up, so he had spent several hours creating his own plans and researching ways to implement them while I had been sleeping in. He also had started cleaning. So we spent a couple of hours discussing and melding our individual ideas into a cohesive plan for improving our life and reorganizing our home. And then we began implementing the plans. I slept well that Saturday and Sunday night, but as the work week progressed and I was unable to continue to clear away clutter, I had more and more problems falling asleep. The closer I got to Friday, the later I fell asleep each night. Incidentally, I didn't have time to clean the office because I was too busy working. Finally, on Friday night, I again lay awake, again unable to sleep. So I got up and worked on another shelf in my office. And with that task finished, I was finally able to fall asleep, and I slept blissfully. Again on Saturday morning, when we awoke, my husband and I discussed our plans for life and business, and then went to work on implementing those plans. The progress of both implementing our plans and of cleaning is painfully slow to me, as we are still doing it more than 2 months later. Thankfully, no longer with the sleep disruptions, or at least not so severe. But I know that this process is required. We're clearing away many things from our home, but what feels most freeing is the purging of those papers and documents that we've held onto for various reasons for a long time, at least 13 years for some of them, and sometimes more than 20 years. We're shredding the papers and adding the shreds to our compost bins to eventually be used as fertilizer in our garden. This is making more room on our office shelves, and in doing this, we're freeing up space for us, for our work and our creativity. We're not clearing the space to make room for more things, but to have more breathing room, more walking room, and more being room. To rearrange objects is also to rearrange or move energy, just like to clear away objects is to clear away the energy that those objects have amassed, and to clear away the energy that those objects affect in you. So it clears away the attachments that those objects have on you. In this case, we aren't simply throwing out the old papers and their energy. We are actually transforming the paper and transmuting their energy. We kept those papers for years, thinking they would one day be helpful to us in our professional lives, but now our professional lives look very different than we had once anticipated, and the papers are full of information that is no longer relevant to us. It helped us, and we've learned from it, and thus it transformed us. We would not be who we are today without that information. And so, rather than simply discard the paper to a landfill, we shred it and transform the paper so it can nurture the land that nurtures our bodies and souls, the way the information on it once nurtured our minds. Clearly, the mental break and change of scene, not to mention the restful sleep, offered by our vacation, jump-started our thinking processes. In this case, it also triggered our need to purge those items and energies that no longer serve us. The more we clear, the more relieved my soul feels. When I encounter sleep difficulties now, I try to clean. Just like after vacation, my sleep problems tend to arise near or at the end of the work week when I have been unable to clean much, and when energies sometimes begin to stagnate in my office. The clearing away improves the sleep, though, and it gives me a fresher start. Now, this is true anywhere in the home, not just the office, but I spend most of my time in the office, so my office energies tend to affect me more. But if you clear whatever room or rooms you tend to spend the most time in, you will also find this benefit. When I find myself frustrated by the slow rate at which things are progressing, whether clearing the clutter, completing projects, or the growth of newer business prospects, I remind myself that any forward movement is good, that this is a marathon, not a sprint, and we sometimes have to loop back or go backward to find a way around an obstacle. The papers we are clearing have been on their shelves for more than a decade, and before that, they occupied various apartments for several years. They took years to accumulate. Years of energy from close to a dozen living spaces have also accumulated in the papers. So a giant sudden purge is perhaps not all that wise. What matters is that we are consciously releasing the old, recognizing that it has already served us and continues to serve us via knowledge and experience, but does not need to be held onto in order to provide us service in the future. Essentially, we are thanking it, blessing it, and sending it on its way. What also matters to our process is that we are planning at the same time, consciously looking at how we want to transform the energy in our lives, and we are taking steps to aid that transformation, including by making room for those new energies, by moving out the old. As we move out the old energies, our creativity continues to grow, and we gain more insights into how to implement our plans to improve ourselves, our lives, and our businesses. In a never-ending feedback loop, we rest, we clear, we grow more creative. If you want to know more about how you specifically can expand your creativity, consider having an intuitive reading with me. You can find descriptions of those at srsstringham.com/services/readings. And if you are having problems sleeping but can't seem to get a handle on the cause, Reiki might be a good option for you, as it can clear away stagnant energies in our auras and leave us feeling very relaxed. To learn more or to purchase a distance Reiki session with me, please visit my website at srsstringham.com/services/Reiki-sessions.